Welcome back to Grumpy Old Men. There's a great buzz going around Fox Footy because the great man from Western Australia has just floated in, plonked himself down on the couch. There's the great Peter Bosustow. Welcome to Grumpy Old Men.
Thank you very much, Kev. Thank you. Thank you, fellas.
Now, Peter, a lot of people may not realise this, but your father played for Carlton.
Yes, he did. He played approximately 20, 25 games with Carlton, Kev. So something I'm very proud of because I've got the father-son, and my young fellow, of course, Brent, is coming through in Western Australia, playing with South Fremantle in the league there, and hopefully he might be the third part of the
You
dynasty.
haven't played enough games.
I played 65, I think.
No, you've got to play 100 now to get the father and son in.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, he can get picked up by anyone, though, Bobby. So he can get picked up by Geelong.
We'll know he'll be picked up if he's anywhere near as good as you.
He's good enough.
He'll be straight in.
Did your father wear number 4?
Yes, he did, actually, Kev. Yes, he did. And again, a bit of history there. But look, it'll be something good. As Bobby said, he's good enough to play. He's good enough to play. And that's just the lap of gods at the moment.
You follow the Blues, Buzz, did you?
Oh, certainly. Yep, certainly. Yeah, Kev. Although my uncle, Kevin known my uncle, Tom Ellison, he played with North Melbourne.
Tommy Ellison,
yes, he was a state player with Victoria, and of course the cousin. Brett took the 1991 mark of the year, so we've got a couple of family 81 mark and the 91 mark, so it's good to follow the family tradition.
Were you a superstar at junior level, Buzz?
No. Look, you know, I was a sort of a bit of a grumpy. I think I was a bit of a grumpy.
Junior,
played up a little bit in juniors at their time, but no.
At Fremantle?
Look, no, I was in the Perth zone, which is the Perth Football Club, which is the Eagles zone. So. And father played there as well. He played sort of 100 games at Perth as well. So there's a bit of a tradition there that I played there. And but no, just come through the juniors and into the league ranks. Played 100 games of waffle football, Kev, before I come to Melbourne and played the 3 years at Carlton then, 81-2-3.
Buzz, why would such a super player that you were, there's no doubt about that, why would you only play 3 years? I mean, what age were you when you come over?
Yes.
And what age were you when you finished at Carlton?
Well, I was 23 years of age when I come to Carlton.
Yep.
Stopped when I was 26. Father had leukemia at that stage, Doug, and I went back. I had 3 sports shops coming over there as well, another one coming, and I just thought I had to go back there and take a bit of pressure off him. It got to the stage where it was okay. In 85, I come back, late 85, to play with Carlton in 86, but broke my ankle in 80 pre-season, and that sort of finished me off then, and played a couple of probably 20, 30 games with Perth over there.
You could have beaten them with the broken ankle, Buzz.
I think I've lost a little bit of the spring now, though, Bobby, so...
So, Buzz, what was it about your game as a junior and then the 100 games you played over in Perth where you just had this mercurial ability to either take a specky, to kick a goal from anywhere, specky, what did I say, specky? A specky, and just to, you know, do these things. Were you like that as a junior player? You said you were, being modest, you said you were just pretty basic player, but I couldn't see that.
Well, look, I was a high jump champion at school, and that helped my leap. And when I come to league level at Perth, I decided to sort of go with your strengths. The strengths were jumping and kicking freak goals, Dougie, this sort of thing, which comes sort of pretty natural. So, I continued that sort of thing. That helped me a little bit.
Along with modesty.
As well. But then I come to Victoria, and Lou Richards got onto me, and look, I could have gone one way or the other, Kev. I could have gone and said, well, look, I'll just play football, but I thought, well, I'll throw the hat in the ring. Tell everyone how good I was, and then I had to back it up though. And then the first game, of course, at Waverley, 77,000 people against Richmond, and that's when Lou got onto it. That, you know, good ordinary footballer, that sort of thing. That the late Jack Dyer was saying about me, and you know, just cottoned onto it from there. But look, I went for broke, Kev. I really did. I went for broke. I did the things. I moved into a good side though. Carlton were a premiership side in '79, and they were very much right to do it again in 1980-81, and that's when I went in '81.
It was a great time to join Carlton because first 2 years there's the mighty number 4, won the premiership 81-82. Fantastic side. You might like to take us through some of the players who, you know, became your teammates. There's Phil Malin for a start.
There's young David Glascott there. He was baby-faced David, they call him, and he was there about 18 or 19 years of age. I think he played in his first game there. There's Wolf Perovic, great player, Val. There's Geelong. I used to play very well against Geelong, Dougie, you know.
That's Bernard Toohey there.
Yes, that's right. Well, there's a big one over Wow. Big Wow.
Over John Mossop.
No, yes, John Mossop. That was the big mark in.
You see how that buzz? Here I come. Here comes the buzz.
No, there was a.
Oh, yeah, but I think Buzz did it too. I think,
I think that was Wayne Johnson, Dougie. I think
Wayne was
he used to say that. But this day was my. This is 83, Kev. It was my first game back for about 4 or 5 weeks. Jimmy Buckley come into the room and said, "There's 3 champions back today. Manikato won the Futurity, Kingston Town won in Sydney, and I come back."
Now, Peter, did you train? Did you train, or were you just a terribly natural fellow?
Oh, look at that.
Well, yeah, look, David Parkin was a fantastic mentor for me.
Yeah.
Bobby, we're a little bit flippant at the moment, but I think Parkin made me the player that I eventually turned out to be. One of the most important things that I hold my hat on is that I had 17 tackles in one game, and Parkin usually
As a forward, Buzz.
as a forward, and that's something I'm very, very proud of. And I could do these sort
the
of.
goal umpire.
We had the ball all the time.
Well, my hardest opponent for the last 20 years, Dougie's been the taxman, so that I played on. So
We're in the same boat, Buzz.
Did any of the coaches try to rein you in at all? Because if you've got this natural
Playing
ability, it was a bit like Phil Carman, you just let it go. Did anybody try and rein you in, or you weren't over here long enough to let them do it?
No, I don't think so, Tone. It wasn't that football then, wasn't it? I think it was just pretty open, which was, really, I think football at its best in those days from 75 to about 85, Bob, and I think, people played accordingly, really.
Buzz, we have a look at the ground here. You can see MCG, that's against Richmond, of course. Stephen Mount there, who went across to Western Australia and played for South Fremantle. But the ground was very heavy. Now, a lot of Western Australians might have liked, the hard, fast ground, the sunshine. You seem to adapt pretty well to the Melbourne conditions. Yeah,
well, I think another guy did too, called Ken Hunter. A fantastic player too, Bobby. And, I think you really just had to be adaptable. And, people ask me now, Kevin, you probably ask the same question, can champions of that era, can they come into the current day era? I think they can, because you can just adapt. You can just,
that's right.
You can, really get used to the conditions. They train 14 to 15 times a week. Well, if you have to do it, you have to do it.
Yeah.
But, I think that's something that West Australians have always been pretty good, skillful players, and we don't get sort of many grounds like that, though.
Beautiful. If you wanted to get a real player, you just went to Western Australia and found them. They were there by the hundreds. They were. Skillful. Fantastic. They were fantastic.
Why was Peter Bosustow such a big game player? I mean, he had that reputation, a bit like you said, Wayne Johnson. He certainly in the finals was a player lifted.
Sure.
Why was the buzz so good in big games?
Well, look, I think it's a lot to do with the cattle around you, Doug. I really do. I think it's, and as Kev said, you've got 79, 81, 82. Well, that's 3 out of 4 years that Carlton won. So they had a side there that was ready made. I think they made a couple of adjustments in 1980. Myself and Hunter come in 81, so that really shored up a back line and a forward position. I think Johnson at that stage, Kev, had knee trouble, and I think Harmsy was out. So we all got them back about halfway through 81, and I think that's what a big part about it. Tony has played in a premiership, and you don't play with an ordinary side, Tony. If you've got a premiership side,
if you want to win.
Exactly, and you know what good sides are because you play with them, and they're all my mates now. I think in 81, 82, back to back, I was back for last year, Kev. There was 2 changes in that particular sides.
Can you see how some players would think? You've got to feel guilty. You were here for 3 years, you're playing 2 premierships, and people go through their whole career
Doug
and
played
don't.
353 games.
18 years and him playing one.
It must have been like, not Hollywood, but it must have been like Tatslotto.
And the third one, Tone, was the premiership of 83, the night premiership as well. So
right.
I had 3 premierships in the 3 years. I just threw that in. Sorry, Doug, I had to throw that one in.
Tell us about, Bob, you talk about the skill. Now, look, it probably has been done before. I think Michael Mitchell, who come from Western Australia, won the mark of the year and the goal of the year. Yeah. I think it might have been around about 1990. But you won the mark of the year and the goal of the year. Now, take us through, your thoughts of doing 2 incredible things in one season.
Well, he didn't like to let his fans down for a start.
Now, this is the mark of the year.
Look at this.
Did you get 2 cars, Buzz?
Now that is a sensational mark. That's better than Sampy.
I think I get him.
That's John Mossop again.
That is John Mossop.
Yeah, he was 6'6", Bob.
Yeah.
I think you showed people that he was 6'6".
This is the greatest goal.
This is unbelievable.
Bruce Dool, there's that great man. Bruce.
Take us through it.
Yeah, well, Jimmy takes it out the centre. I think Bombers. I don't know what Bombers doing there, but he kicked it down towards Big Blakey and Phil, and then Ian Nankervis picks it up. I just thought, well, I'll try and smother. I was going to run around and go straight in, but I saw the three blokes coming at me, so I thought I'll just screw it back around the shoulder, and it went through.
That is as good as you want to get, KB.
That was
Robbie?
goal of the year.
Well, you
and
talk
mark
about the
of the
defensive
year.
side of your game, how you
Fantastic.
tackle, but to do that, not many forwards did that sort of stuff. That was just
Well, I
brilliant.
think at that stage too, Tone, we had two of them. We had Johnson and myself that were pretty hard at the player and the ball. And I think, as Dougie said, Johnson was such a big time player. I remember the '82 grand final. He got the 2-week suspension after the first one. Richmond belted us in the '82 second semi. And Johnson and I never played. I played the next week, the prelim. Then Jono had to have the 2 weeks to play in the grand final against Richmond. I think, Kev, you remember it well.
No, we can't remember. It's lost in the memory.
And
though.
Johnson was just unbelievable in the first 15, 20 minutes, because I think we kicked 3 and 8 minutes of the first quarter, and Johnson was just superb. So, great player.
Nowadays, everyone does that inside-out kick and puts it on the other side. When you kicked the goal of the year, did you just normally turn the ball a bit because we watched it there? Was that part of your skill as a little fella? Did that just come naturally to you, or was that?
It would have been, Bobby. I would have done that, probably 100 times in the school park or the park, and you practice those sort of things, and that was just probably would have come sixth sense to a forward. Backman probably wouldn't try that sort of thing, but Bobby, I get a bit disappointed with I get a bit disappointed with footy now. I really do. I think it's too robotic. I think it's too corporate.
Good boy, Peter.
It was it's a $600 million game now, and it was a $60 million when you and I played. It's called a game of footy.
I'm going to play a game of footy.
I go out there today to Carlton, and 6 players left when I walked in, because I don't think they could hold their head up with it. No, I don't mean that as a joke. I just mean it because I just think that they've got no idea of tradition anymore or history of clubs. Past players, but past history of clubs. Dougie and the young blokes, I don't think have any clue what history is in a club now.
If you were coming back today, what sort of fee would you imagine what sort of contract would you like?
Look, I'd be on 1.6, I think 1.7. I think
Now, Buzz, leading me into this one. Who was your hardest opponent and ever been beaten? Has anyone ever beaten you?
Well, I told you just a while ago, Doug, it was a tax man. He's been after me for 20 years.
What about football? What was your hardest?
Graham Landy was probably my terrific player.
A very good player, Graham Landy.
Yeah.
Graham Landy should have played in the 1980 Premiership side for the Tigers, but he got suspended out at Waverley against, I think it might have been Carlton. For hitting Kenny Sheldon. But he was a terrific player.
David Toomey was another one. Do you remember David Toomey? He held me in the 1981 grand final, probably to about 14, 15 possessions. But I think he's a very, very good player.
You know that what Graham Landy designed? You know what he's done since you used to beat him? You know that bottle that they have and they all squirt? That's his. That's Graham Landy. He designed all that.
Oh.
So he's a multi-millionaire these days.
Well, he might be better than, I don't know, but that bottle that everyone uses now, they squirt it in it. That's
called a
Graham
water
Landy's
bottle.
A drink bottle.
Oh, well, whatever it is. They don't give you don't get an infection if you squirt it in your mouth or whatever.
No, that's right.
Now, I want to ask the Buzz this, because you went back to Western Australia to play. I'm sitting at home one day and I'm reading the newspaper, and it might have even come on the telly, and it said Peter Bosustow's come in after a game playing back in WA, and he's gone whack and put his hand through a plate glass window and looked like he was going to have his arm decapitated.
Yeah, what I did, this is a long story.
Would someone beat you?
This is a long story. That's the hand there.
Wow, that's come off.
I put it through
You
a
nearly
plate.
cut the hand off.
I nearly did. I lost 6 pints of blood. I was coming back to play in Melbourne halfway through 1984. The deal was done between Carlton and my club in Perth, called Perth. And Kev was all over 25,000 for the rest of the year, but Carlton only wanted to pay 20. If I had known that, Dougie, I would have paid the $5,000 myself, because I just loved the VFL at that stage,
and the Blues,
and I just loved playing in that sort of football. And look, I was just talking to Tony about the Chris Tarrant thing. I think it's a disgrace.
You got two words. What's it a disgrace for?
Well, it's a disgrace, Dougie, because we used to do that a lot in our days, didn't we?
Absolutely.
But I can remember going past Tony and giving him a clip, and he'd give me a payout, and it would be all over.
Wasn't much in the buzz.
So why did you smash your
Yeah,
hand
well,
into
and
the
what
plate
I did,
last
I
day.
kicked 8 goals. I kicked 8 goals in one of the games in Perth. We couldn't make the final 4 in that day too, Kev. And I was going. I had to come back to Perth to play at Perth because they couldn't come to terms with the clearance. And I just got so frustrated. I had death threats. I had everything, against me for coming back. And then I kicked the 8 goals, and I come up through the race, and the bloke said to me, "Never mind, Buzz, next week." And I said, "Well, next week, and then went bang, and it was a shower screen glass. It wasn't the proper glass. I got it in all right, Kev, but I couldn't get it out, so I had to pull it out, and it just ripped the whole lot there, as you saw just a while ago. And I was so calm about it because I just thought
Did you miss a week?
couple of stitches.
Did you miss a week?
I missed the rest of the season, Bob, which is about 4 weeks.
Played again.
There was a lot of microsurgery had to be done,
Yes,
sure.
and I had the best 2 hand surgeons in the world at that stage that were in Perth and doing it. And I played the start of next year under big bad Malcolm Brown was my coach at Perth the next year. So
What was Brenny like?
oh, nightmare, absolute nightmare.
What, very controlled?
Yeah, well, that's right. His son's going through that at the moment, I think, Tone.
What do you think of Chris Tarrant's report, Buzz?
Oh, look, I think it's pretty. As I said, it was ordinary. That sort of thing happened virtually every week in those
From
days.
forwards, so forwards are allowed to get away with that sort of
Smack
stuff.
him, Buzz.
Well, Tony, I think a strike has got to be it's got to be intentional, and that strike was reckless to say the very least. And if they're going to strike out a fantastic player like that, I think our game's going to be all the sadder.
What about melees? We've got a number of players going up tonight. Of course, I think there's 18 players going up. Did you ever play in a melee at all, Buzz?
Look, I think that was every week. Richmond and Collingwood's. I can remember a big one at Collingwood. But there's no one gets hurt in it. There's a bit of push and shove, and the crowd loves it, of course. And I think the chap on the end of the count used to start most of them anyway. But no one ever got hurt.
You might have been in the 81 at Victoria Park, right in front of the
Yes,
social
that's
club.
right. It was too.
Gee, that
I
was
was
a
too.
mellow. No, that was an all-in brawl.
Was
That, yeah.
Yeah.
Buzz and I were down the other end just watching everybody fight.
Did a Matthew Lloyd there, kept out of it, just, who's there?
Now, can I ask you this? Now, we've been discussing this week that Nick Riewoldt took a mark on the weekend, running with the flight of the ball against
very
Sydney.
courageous.
You may have seen it. I'm on radio on SEN 1116, and what happens is the talkback callers flooded in and said that James Bartel took an
just as
amazing
good.
mark, very, very similar, running out of the centre square. And a lot of Geelong supporters said to me, that's the best mark they've ever seen taken by a Geelong player. Now, we've seen Ashley Sampi this year as well. Now, you've taken that mark of the year, which we saw, which was an extraordinary mark. Do you think that, people are changing their perception of what is a great mark in terms of courage?
I think you're right. I get phone calls in Melbourne and in Perth when everyone takes a great mark here, and that shouldn't happen. Our great game should be those sort of marks every week, really. And now that Sampi did that, three or 4 weeks ago, I'm still getting phone calls saying, how do you compare the mark with yours and Jezelenko's or whoever, or Hunter's and this sort of thing. And really, those courageous marks are taken every week, really, in football. But Riewoldt's was a tremendously courageous
James
mark.
Bartel.
Yeah, I saw Bartel. I still reckon Riewoldt was better.
He had 6
You're
blokes there,
commentating that
Bartel.
game.
Bartel had 6 blokes, and he ran straight in, didn't look anywhere.
No, and just turned
his
himself
mark
around.
was outstanding.
Did you see Nick Riewoldt?
I
He took
did.
16 steps running that way.
Yes, he
Sure,
did.
let me say, is it a different because his name's Bartel and Riewoldt? Oh, look at different because he's a superstar.
I was at the game with
This
Geelong.
kid's on the verge
I was
of
at
being
the game at Geelong, and it was so courageous. And I think that he's got respect
You saw
now
the game,
forever.
yeah?
Yeah, I was at that game.
Oh, okay, fair.
But and I saw Riewoldt at the same. I just think Riewoldt to take 16 steps, not worrying about what was coming the other way, looking like that, and to build up and not have a hesitation of taking those 16
I
steps.
wonder also, Bob, that maybe graphically, as far as television is concerned, the Riewoldt one, from the different angles might have been
that's
caught
right.
a little
Could
bit
have been better. Yeah,
than
that's
the
right.
James Bartel one.
Both were fantastic.
Now,
I think it
wanna
was
know,
even
just
meant
a
for
minute,
him.
Buzz. I think we better have a competition of the greatest marks of all time and a huge prize. Now, do you think you would like to join in that with that one?
Look, I think I'd probably have the top 3.
better top 8.
Well, I'll give Jezza. Jezza will probably come in about 4.
Before you took that mark, there was a story. Now,
Did anyone ever know you before you took the mark?
is this just a myth? But the talk around the traps of football is that before you went out to play that day, that you turned to someone and said, I'm going to take the mark of the century
That
today.
is a true story. That is very much a true story. You ask Mark McLuhan.
We can accept a few things.
I was out the week before. This is the true story. And McClure and I were sitting in the grandstand at the couple of bluebirds that side, a couple of bluebirds that side. And I said to Hunter took a screamer, absolute beauty against Melbourne the week before. And I turned to him and said, he said, Buzz, he said, that was a fantastic mark. That'll win mark of the year. And I said, don't worry about that, Sellers. I'll fix that up next week. So I'm sitting behind him the next week. True story, Davey. It's a true story. And I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, Sellers, because that was his name, or Boxhead, whatever you want to call McClure. And I said, Mark, I've just had a premonition. I'm going to take mark of the year today. He turned around. You know what Sellers is like, whack me and all this sort of thing. And that's a true story. But look, that's the sort of thing that you would have done, to get teammates going and all that sort of thing.
Did you win 2 cars for the goal of the mark?
No, I won $1,000 each for the two. Kenny Hunter took the mark of the year 2 years later and won a $45,000 car. He tells me about that one all the time.
That's why Peter Bosustow's got a very good chance of being the grumpy half-foot and the best team in the century.